Welcome to Overcaffeinated and Out of Effs, the podcast for burned out, career-minded moms who are ready to stop pretending everything's fine and feel like themselves again. I'm your host, Christy Amir, burnout coach for moms, licensed therapist, and mom of two. And I'm here to help you reclaim your energy, your identity, and your peace of mind. Whether you're lying awake thinking about the 87 things you didn't get done, or silently resenting the people you love most, this is your space to feel seen, supported, and not so alone. So grab your coffee, hot, cold, or day old, and let's get into it. Hey everybody, it's Christy. Welcome to Overcaffeinated and Out of Effs. In today's episode, I'd like to welcome our guest, Melissa Schulz. Melissa is a parenting coach that specializes in supporting parents of strong-willed, highly sensitive, and neurodiverse kids. She started working with kids with severe behavior challenges when she was just 18 in group homes, specialized schools, and residential treatment centers. From the very beginning, she knew this work was her calling in life. She went on to earn her master's in psychology and became a board-certified behavior analyst so she could better support children with behavioral challenges and their families. Along the way, she founded and grew an in-home behavioral health company that served kids with autism, building it to a team of 75 employees over 12 years. But her most important role is being a mom to 3 kids, 2 of whom are neurodiverse. That combination of education, professional experience, and personal life is what inspired Melissa to create her coaching programs. Today, she runs individual and group coaching programs designed specifically for parents of strong-willed, highly sensitive, or neurodiverse kids. So, I have invited Melissa here today to share her story of working while raising neurodiverse children and to talk about the challenges she's faced, helpful strategies, and all of those sorts of things. So, Melissa, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, do you mind maybe just starting off a little bit and letting us know, just a little bit about yourself and your family and your work, all of those kinds of things?
Yeah. So you did a beautiful introduction. Thank you. But yeah, my name is Melissa. I've been married to my husband, Brian, for 18 years, I think. I'm bad at keeping track. For a long time.
Mhm.
And we have 3 kids. Oldest is about to turn 12. And then my daughter is 10. And then my youngest son is 4. And yeah, I think before having kids, I always thought I would be a stay-at-home mom. And then I started my first business and really felt like that was my calling and what I wanted to be doing. And then I got pregnant with my oldest. So now I've realized since that working makes me a better mom. It's really the best of both worlds for me, even though it has its own challenges.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've loved being an entrepreneur in business, and then using my background and personal experience to help other moms just brings me so much joy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I have to say, that resonates with me so much. Just this idea of wanting to be a stay-at-home mom initially, but then realizing that work is really the right decision for you. I mean, I felt that exact same way, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you would mind just kind of helping us to sort of form a picture a little bit. Like, what does life look like for you as a working mom with neurodiverse children?
Yeah. So actually, for the past 4 or 5 years, until very recently, my husband was a stay-at-home dad. So
Hmm.
he actually felt like that was his calling to be at home, and I got to work, and it was a very happy, uh, non-traditional thing that was working for both of us. And when our youngest started school, he just started working, going back to work. He's been a special education teacher for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think I've tried a lot of different versions of being a working mom. There was trying to work at home with my kids when they were little, but then really I felt like I was not doing either well because of course,
Hmm.
big phone call that I had to be on right when the, baby was crying or something. Um, and then there's the adjustment to having different people take care of your kids and finding all those environments. I think what I have come to realize is, um, it's always going to be there's always gonna be tension. right? Like,
Mhm.
whenever I'm working, I am gonna be missing, maybe getting to pick my kids up from school, or maybe I try to go on lots of field trips, but I can't go on all of them, and so I'm gonna be missing some of that stuff. But, and then sometimes at home, I really wanna finish that project at work because 'cause I'm really into it, or I really wanna do this thing and I'm with my kids, so there's always gonna be that tug. But just getting to do both makes me like, brings me a lot of joy like that. So I'm not ever looking for the perfect balance, but I'm really just looking to, like, be present with what I'm doing and enjoy what I'm doing and letting go of the rest. I think my kids are lucky to get to grow up with an example of a mom, who for a long time supported the whole household, to have such an involved, wonderful dad that wanted to stay home with them, and so I think there's a lot I'll get a lot more out of it than we're giving up.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad that you said that too, because I think that that's something that a lot of moms really need to hear,
Yeah.
that not only is it okay to go and work for ourselves, especially if it's well, for starters, some moms feel like they need to work, but also a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
want to work, right?
yes.
And so, but there can be a lot of guilt associated with it, this
Mhm.
idea of like, what am I doing like to my kids? Should I, quote unquote, like, should I be staying home with them and that
Yeah,
sort of thing? But I think a lot of times we forget that there's value in that too, not just for us, but for our kids as well. And
yeah.
what are they learning? So
Yeah,
yeah.
we've had a great experience with other, either babysitters or daycares, or whatever we have found to be the best fit for our kids at that time. Like, just other people, like, to be part of our village that have, like, loved our kids and, taught them a lot of things that didn't think of teaching them. So I kinda love that that village has been bigger and they've had a lot of different positive influences and people that have loved them. So
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that
no,
has
that's
been a
amazing.
good thing to come out of it.
That's amazing. Yeah, the village is so important, and
Yeah,
not everybody really has a great village, but it
right.
is so important. I'm glad
Yeah,
to hear that, that you have that. So,
yeah.
one of the things that I was wondering about is, what were some of the biggest challenges that you face when you were trying to when you were trying to balance a demanding career with the needs of your children?
Yeah, since I have 2 neurospicy kids, right, are higher needs. I would call all the the strong-willed,
Mhm,
highly sensitive, neurodiverse, those are all just, like, higher needs kids, like, they're wonderful kids, it's not their fault, but just because of their personality or the way their brain works, right, they just need more, uh,
mhm,
and, yeah, I have chosen to, have more challenging careers that also demands a lot. So, something that I, continue to work on, and it's kind of been a journey that I really try to support moms in, is, like, I think of, like, capacity a lot, like, how much
mhm,
you can like, capacity, like, how much you can hold, right? And
mhm,
so we kinda come with, like, a certain amount of capacity, and I think of it as, like, I'm, like, holding a coffee cup in my hands. I know no one can see me, but I imagine, like, a coffee cup, and, like, that's how much you can hold, and most of us, especially when we're balancing family and high needs kids and work, like, the coffee cup is always filled to the brim, and so we
mhm,
just feel burnt out and just, like, at our max and, like, at our limit, but, like, we can't get rid of the kids, we can't, quit our job, we feel really stuck, and so
mhm,
something that I deeply believe and have worked on is, like, increasing my capacity, like, if my life needs more than I have, like, I can grow my own capacity to handle more. So I think of, like,
mhm,
keeping the kids in the job and all the things, but just getting a much bigger coffee cup, so is
mhm,
more margin and space. So that's been,
mhm,
like, a big part of my personal and professional journey is, like, how to grow my capacity as a mom. So even though my kids do need more than maybe other kids, and I have chosen, to be an entrepreneur, which is a challenging, career, um, it's fine. Like, not that it's nowhere near perfect, and of course we have different days, but overall, I'm like, "Yeah, I can totally handle this. I got this." And,
mhm.
that's just a very happy way to go through life versus, like, always just feeling burned out.
Yeah, and when you talk about capacity, right? So you're talking about the coffee cup, and of
Yeah.
course, everybody, one thing that feel like is important to mention is everybody's cup is a different size.
Mhm.
You talk about a cup, I usually talk about a plate, but the same idea, right?
Yeah.
That you can, work on sort of expanding the size of your
Yes.
plate, or also like strategies to help reduce what's on it to begin with,
Yes.
right? So both of those sorts of things, right?
Yes.
And so, but to your point, sort of doing different things to affect like what you can handle, because
Yeah.
everybody's going to have those limits,
Yeah.
it's important to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So Were there ever moments when you felt like you were at your breaking point, like when your coffee cup was spilling over or maybe was completely spilled over, overflowing? Like, what did that look like for you?
I so I have a recent example, like, it was like I was celebrating it as a win
Mhm.
because it was, like, a good example of capacity growth, but definitely, like, hit the limit. So I have, my kids have just different challenges, and all of their behaviors can be you know, our kids' behaviors can be triggering,
Mhm.
and they affect all of us differently for different reasons. So there's this one behavior of one of my kids that, like, is, like, particularly triggering for me. I've been doing the work on it, so I'm not so triggered because when it first started happening, it was just, like, I had a very hard time managing my own emotions around it. So doing a lot of my own work on the triggers, and, like, knowing it's more like something that I can't fix, and that's my trigger is, like, not being able to fix it. So,
Mhm.
doing a lot of work on that, this behavior happened once a couple months ago for basically 3 days straight. And when this happens, this child is, like, glued to my side doing this thing.
Mhm.
And there's really nothing that I can do. It's really like a wait it out kinda thing, like, be calm and emotionally supportive, and I can't fix it. So, 3 days is a really long time for that to happen.
I'm
Like, a
sure.
previous version of me would, like, after 20 minutes was like, "I am out," like, "I need to switch with my husband, I need to go, take a break," whatever. So, it was like the morning of the next day, though, after 3 days of this, we wake up on the 4th morning and it's, like, still happening, and then I think, like, my husband was really sweet and, like, made me, like, oatmeal or something for breakfast, and then one of my kids ate my oatmeal, and
Oh,
then I was,
no.
and, like, I get hangry, so, like, we usually don't mess with mom's food, they usually know better than that, and then I had, like, this little caffeine drink that I like, and I had, like, filled it up, and then another kid came and gave me, like, a barrel hug, so sweet, but it made
Mhm.
the drink spill everywhere,
Oh,
and,
no.
that was definitely, like, a limit, but, like, I just, like, put down the cup, I said calmly to my husband, "Can you please clean this up?" And I, like, went and I locked myself in my room, and I cried for a while.
Mhm.
And I didn't yell at anyone, so it was like that was definitely a breaking point, but I was like I still celebrated it as a win that I lasted that long, and even when I did hit that breaking point, I was like, I like how I handled it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, that's one of many.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's absolutely a win. I mean, I'm just listening to
Yeah.
you talk, and I'm sort of picturing this scene, this scenario, like, in my head. I mean, I'm sure that we've all sort of had our own versions of something, like,
Yeah,
very,
yeah,
very similar, but yeah, no, but the fact that you, were able to, like, leave the room, have a good cry, you
yeah,
have your husband take over, like,
yeah.
all good things, And those are great things to do in the moment, and I imagine, with these things happening, it sounds like you've learned a lot of things that are helpful. So, what have you found are some of the things like on the really, really hard days? Like,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that keep you grounded?
Yeah, I, like, really I like to call it, like, having a well-managed mind. Like, I just really spend intentional time working on my own brain and my own thoughts about my kids' behavior because their brains process the world differently. So while
Mhm.
I know lots about behavior, we can do everything for the behavior, it's not all gonna like, some of that is just there's, like, the acceptance of that, and
Mhm.
it's really more working on deeply accepting it, understanding it, and being okay with some of it. So,
Mhm.
on the harder days, if I can take a step back and really, like, spend some time just noticing my thoughts and, taking really good care of them, I try to make sure, like, my self-care routine is on point, so I know for me, like,
Mhm.
if I get a workout in the morning before the kids get up, I spend some time, like, praying, I have, like, a gratitude practice in the morning that really helps, at night, I really like to take baths, and none of this happens every day, but I try to do as many things as I can, and I try to do more on the hard days, um, so yeah, like, I love, like, a nice bath at the end of the day and just sitting in there relaxing, so, yeah, I think prioritizing my own self-care more when it gets rough and then, like, asking for help. Like, I'm lucky to have a wonderful partner. We definitely switch off all the time when one of us we each hit our breaking points, and that's when we can tap out, and, that's really effective sometimes for the kids because 'cause they're just mad at the faces in front of them, so when another face comes up, that can just even help reset what's going
Mhm.
on. But it also helps for us to know, yeah, that we have
Mhm.
a support
Well,
there.
it sounds like the kid might respond differently to a different face, but also sounds like you 2 sort of have this awareness and you're able to work together as a team of like, "Okay, I know I'm at my limit.
Yeah.
I need help, I can't do this right now."
Yes.
So
Yeah.
tag out, you tag in, we're
Yep.
gonna swap, and, like, later, maybe we'll swap back or something like that.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, okay. Well, and did you always like, you talk about your self-care routine, like, being really on point and how important that is.
Yeah.
Did you always sort of know to do that and to prioritize that, or were there any, like, moments where, you realized that something did have to change in terms of how you were approaching work, how you were approaching motherhood, all of those kinds of things?
Yeah, I think growing up, it was really just like I was always a very high achiever, high performer, and I would just like do all the things. And I didn't really take good care of myself or think about taking care of myself. I just wanted to I just really like checking off all the check boxes. And that
Mhm,
worked really well until I had a business and then 2 kids under 2.
mhm,
Then it was like, okay, this is not, my body started not liking the fact that I was not taking care of it. And
mhm,
I've always had like a very anxious brain. And so, yeah, I was just kind of noticing the pattern of ignoring these things was, no longer sustainable. And so that kind of started more of a journey of like, I want to be the best mom I can be, the best entrepreneur and leader I can be. And yeah, you have to take care of your body and be grateful for your body for all it's doing for you. And so that kind of started a journey that I'm still on. I still have a
mhm.
long ways to go, but really, yeah, taking care of myself so I can take care of everyone better.
Yeah. And I feel like our journeys never really end, right? We're
Exactly.
always sort of growing, we're always changing, we're always improving, it's like it's an ongoing thing, I feel like.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so a little going back to something that you had said a little bit ago, you were talking about your support system. You were talking about how you're very fortunate to have a great support system. I'm curious, like, how did the experiences that you did have, how did those shape your relationships or shape that support system?
Um, like the experiences as a mom?
Like, as a mom, specifically, of neurodiverse children, did you find
Mm.
that those experiences did shape that system, support system at all?
I think it's definitely harder to
Mhm,
find the right support system,
mhm,
with my kids because it can't just and I mean, I don't think it can be just anyone for any kids,
mhm,
but it does require, yeah, more of a certain type of person to, leave my kids with that they're comfortable with, that I'm comfortable with, that I know will respond in ways that are gonna be helpful for them,
mhm,
and then just sometimes it's, like, just not misunderstanding their behaviors. Like I have, my child with ADHD is wonderful. Um,
mhm,
they are just in a spot where they've come a long way, but they're in a spot where they just think they're like on the same level as an adult. And I
mhm,
kind of have always thought that, and they talk like that because
mhm,
that's how it works in their brain. And with ADHD, it comes out before they think, right? So, um, less now, but often for a while, things would come out sounding rude. Like, it would just
mhm,
sound maybe, like, disrespectful or rude. Now, this kid usually wasn't being rude, sometimes they were, but often they weren't, they were just talking, and so we would need to be careful about the adults around them because if they were with an adult that took that as, like, "Hey, don't be rude," like, then we have fireworks, right?
mhm,
But,
mhm,
if someone can just be like, "Oh, you know what? That sounded a little bit rude. Could you say that again?" Then my kid will totally self-correct it. We're great, and now we all understand each other, and, like, we're happy.
mhm, mhm,
So, yeah, it's definitely, like, more, maybe coaching for people or just making sure they kinda have the right perspective or personality fit. So I think it has been required a lot more effort to find people. It can't just be, like, whoever happens to live next to us necessarily,
mhm.
um, to make sure they can manage the unique needs. But we've found those people for sure.
Okay, well, good, and yeah, and so you talk about, like, coaching. It sounds like there are a lot of, conversations that are had, with the
Yeah,
people who are gonna be supporting you just to help them understand and,
yeah,
um, it sounds like help them, like, understand, like, how they can respond in these situations and things
yeah.
like that. Well, and then to that point, I'm curious, like, what are some things that you just wish, not necessarily your support system, but just society in general, what are some things that
Yeah.
you wish more people knew about raising these kids?
Yeah, I think people, can often just, they'll assume the worst, right? I think
Mhm.
in general, humans tend to have that negativity. We have that negativity bias where we kinda assume the worst. So if we do see a kid, being rude or talking back to an adult, we assume that they're a bad kid and they're doing it on purpose. And
Mhm.
so I like to live all of my life, but especially with kids, like, just always assuming the best. Like, assuming this is a good kid who's just having a hard time. That leads me to more curiosity and, like, how can I help them? What's going on for them? Versus, like, assuming that they're a bad kid and they're doing it on purpose. And so I
Mhm.
think, like, the more in general is the world can assume positive intent from each other versus assuming the worst, but especially when we're dealing with a kid who might look typical and not have, especially these invisible disabilities or challenges, they look the same.
Mhm.
Um, but we could assume that, yeah, maybe like what if we just assume all kids process information a little bit differently,
Mhm.
and give every kid the benefit of the doubt and then are just curious about what comes up. I think the world would be a better place in general.
Okay, okay. Well, and
Yeah.
then what about for the moms specifically? Like, what would you say to a mom who
Yeah.
maybe feels like no one else could possibly understand, like, what she's going through?
Yeah. Like, so I talk to those moms like back to back to back every single day. And
Mhm.
so like, I would just want that mom to know she is not alone. And so I think, like, there's so much guilt around it, and often as moms, we feel like it's our fault. The
Mhm.
behaviors are our fault, and it must mean that we're a bad mom or we have a bad kid, and that is absolutely not true. Yeah, if you're listening to podcasts like this, right, you love your kids, you're doing your very, very best. Some kids
Mhm.
just do have more needs and more challenges than others. Um, but I would really want those moms to know that even if there's not like sometimes it just isn't happening with other people in our immediate circle, so we feel like we're the only ones, but there are so many good moms out there struggling with the exact same things that you are.
Mhm. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I think is, like, really important too to mention too, just because one of the goals of this podcast, I feel like so many moms really struggle with this idea that the challenges that they're experiencing, they are experiencing them alone, right? And so one of the
Yes,
goals of this
yes.
podcast is really just to kind of have people on to share their stories because I really want people to really be able to know and understand, like, no, there are other it's not just, your
Yes.
like, yes, it's your experience, but there are other people who are going through similar things who maybe can understand or maybe don't understand exactly what you're going through, but they can understand that it's still a challenge. Raising kids is still a challenge. And, when we're all sort of going through our own version of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I did one-on-one I've done do one-on-one coaching. So I work, one-on-one with a mom or a dad, which is so much fun and wonderful. But then in the last year I started group coaching programs because it really was getting to the point where, you know, 5, 6 calls a day and it's the exact same thing, but each one feels alone because they don't know anyone personally. So it's like
Mhm.
putting all of those together, putting those wonderful moms together in a group. And now there's like so much like, oh my gosh, me too. Or like, yes, that's happening. Like they don't know anyone else in their immediate circle that's struggling with that, but there are so many other moms that are struggling with
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So, for any moms who are listening who maybe are raising, strong willed, highly sensitive, or neurodiverse kids, and they're feeling burned out, they're really, having, a hard time, what are some small shifts? What are some small things that they could start doing now just to help them feel less overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think, yeah, like maybe just noticing the inputs, like how you are taking care of yourself is a big one. But like it's definitely more than like, getting a massage, right? Like if you
Mhm.
get a massage, right? Like those are great. Like please get them. But like whatever thoughts that you're having, the story that's in your head that's making you stressed out all the time is probably still going to be there after the massage. And
Mhm.
so do all of that stuff, have good habits, take care of your body. But I think it really is also just really kinda knowing all the things that your brain is telling you and not necessarily believing it. So,
Mhm.
like, we don't have to believe that we're bad moms just because our kid is acting up. We don't have to feel guilty because we're going to work. Um,
Mhm.
so really, like, getting more healthy perspectives on things can just make the biggest difference.
Well, and I think too, and I 100% agree with that, and that to go along with this idea of we don't have to believe the thoughts
Yeah.
is to challenge the thoughts, right? So, like,
Yeah.
the challenge is when we notice the thoughts that we're having, actually taking time to take a step back and sort of explore what we know to be true and to be not true, and then to sort of use that to create the new thought
Yeah.
that feels more true.
Yeah, and they're just more helpful, in the moment. If in the moment my kid is having a meltdown in the grocery store and all I'm thinking about is how I'm a terrible mom and, everyone's looking at me and this shouldn't be happening, like, those aren't true, and, like, that's definitely not helpful to be right? Those thoughts are gonna make me feel even more triggered by
Mhm.
that. So, yeah, I really like to spend more time, like, just in gratitude for each of my kids. As much as I can with my negative brain, um, I like to, yeah, just, like, in those moments, I'm like, "Okay, my kid is doing the very best they can now, they're just having a hard time," right? I'm doing the best I can with the tools I have, and maybe I'm having a hard time, and that's okay too. And
Mhm.
so just, like, having a more compassionate or even, like, curious, like, "Huh, I wonder why they're doing that right now," versus like, "Oh, this shouldn't be happening,"
Yeah.
can make a very big difference in kinda staying more calm and regulated in that moment.
Yeah, to look at situations through a lens of curiosity, right?
Yes.
Rather than assumptions.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So, for people who want to, learn more about you, learn more about the work that you do, the programs that you offer, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, it's melissaschulz.com.
Mhm.
And I have a free, e-guide that they can download. It's How to Get Kids to Listen. And so I highly recommend downloading that. That'll get you on my email list too. And I do, usually different webinars or just different free things to support moms of high needs kids, usually about once a month. So you'll be the first to know about the different events that I do. And then I also do offer a free 1 hour consultation. So
Mhm.
if you're a mom listening to this and you do have a strong-willed, highly sensitive, or neurodiverse kid and you are really looking for more support and help, or you wanna grow your capacity, you wanna know the best way to manage their behaviors, I would love to talk to you for an hour. It's free, and I can help get you on the path to, yeah, getting the support you need.
Okay, great, great. And so, as always, I will make sure that all that information is included in the show notes for anybody who wants to learn more about Melissa and the work that she does. So, before we wrap up for today, if you could leave the moms who are listening, who are raising, these strong willed, highly sensitive, or neurodiverse kids, what would be like if you could leave them with one final piece of advice, one final message, what would that be?
Yeah, I think I just want them to know that they're good moms and they're doing their best. Um, and so, like, yeah, I want you whoever you're listening to that and that's you, just know that I see you and I know that you're a really good mom, and your kids' behaviors and challenges are not a reflection of your value as a mom or your success as a mom, but
Mhm.
also it can get so much better. And so even if you've tried other things that haven't worked, there are definitely, things that can work for your kid to make it so much easier for both of you, and I just really want, these moms to be able to enjoy their kids more. Sometimes the challenges suck all the joy out of parenting these people that we love so much, and so, yeah, there's just so much more joy available.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great point, right? Is that, parenting is challenging, but like
Ah.
we want it to be joyful too.
Yes,
Yeah, we
yes.
want to enjoy these years. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that makes yeah, I agree with that 100%. So
yeah.
all right, well, thank you again so much for being here. As I said before, I think I said before, I know we're all so busy. I imagine you are very busy too, and I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to talk to me. I guess I think that this is gonna be wonderful for the moms who are listening. And as always, for the moms who are listening, if any of this resonates, if you found it to be the things we talked about today to be helpful, please share this podcast with any other moms that could maybe use some additional support. Um, because we are all in this together.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.